Chapter 57: A Deeper Bond. The uncharted territory had begun to reveal its secrets, and Adrian and Serena found themselves in awe of the land's hidden beauty and ancient mysteries. The dense forests, towering cliffs, and crystal-clear waters seemed to pulse with life, each corner of the island holding something new and extraordinary. Every day brought fresh wonders, forgotten ruins, strange flora and fauna, and traces of magic that hinted at the land's rich past. It was a place unlike any they had ever known, and each discovery felt like a key unlocking the island's deepest secrets. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the land, the challenges they faced together only strengthened the connection between them. The trials, both physical and mental, were not easily overcome, but with each puzzle they solved and obstacle they surpassed, their partnership grew stronger. What had begun as a journey of exploration slowly transformed into something more profound. Their bond, built on trust, respect, and shared passion for discovery, deepened with every step they took, forging a connection that went beyond mere partnership and into something much more meaningful. Their days were filled with exploration and wonder, each moment a new adventure that brought them closer to the heart of the uncharted land. They navigated through dense forests where towering trees loomed above them, their branches thick with leaves that filtered the sunlight into dappled patterns on the ground. They scaled rugged cliffs, their muscles aching but their spirits high, and uncovered hidden groves where flowers glowed with an otherworldly light. Every corner of the land seemed to hold a new marvel, drawing them deeper into its mysteries. The ancient ruins they encountered along the way spoke of a forgotten civilization, their weathered stone walls etched with symbols and carvings that hinted at a rich, magical history. As they pieced together the land's story, uncovering its secrets and unraveling its magic, their shared experiences deepened their understanding of one another. The challenges they faced together, the physical trials, the puzzles, and the constant wonder of discovery, allowed them to learn not just about the land, but about each other, strengthening the bond between them with every passing day. One morning, as the sun's rays filtered through the misty canopy of an ancient forest, Adrian and Serena stumbled upon a hidden clearing. The thick foliage parted to reveal a crystal-clear spring at its center, its waters shimmering with an ethereal glow. The spring seemed to pulse with life, its surface reflecting the sunlight in delicate, shimmering patterns that danced on the surrounding trees. The scene was breathtaking, untouched by time, as if the land had protected this place for centuries. The air around them was thick with a soft hum, a subtle vibration that spoke of the magic woven into the very fabric of the land. It was a gentle, almost imperceptible sound, like a song from the earth itself, reminding them of the island's ancient enchantment. Serena, feeling the power in the air, stepped closer to the spring, her senses attuned to the magic that flowed through it. In that moment, they both understood that this place held more than beauty. It was a nexus of the island's secrets, a glimpse into the heart of its power. Serena crouched beside the spring, her fingers lightly brushing the surface of the water. The cool touch of the water sent a gentle ripple through the clear depths, and as she lingered, a strange feeling washed over her. The spring seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, as though it were responding to her touch. The air around her felt charged, vibrant with an unseen force that she could almost feel in her bones. "This place feels different," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper as she gazed into the shimmering waters. Her eyes narrowed in concentration as she tried to understand the sensation that filled the air. "It's as if the magic here is alive, resonating with our presence." There was an undeniable connection between them and the spring, something ancient and powerful that seemed to acknowledge their arrival. Serena's words hung in the air, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for them to uncover the spring's secrets. Adrian joined Serena by the spring, his eyes scanning the clearing with a quiet intensity. The beauty of the place, coupled with the undeniable sense of magic in the air, left him with a lingering feeling that they were on the brink of something far greater. His gaze shifted from the glowing waters to the surrounding trees, sensing that there was more hidden beneath the surface than they had yet uncovered. It wasn't just the land that was ancient, it was as if the very fabric of the island had been waiting for them. "We've uncovered so many secrets in this land," Adrian said, his voice steady but filled with a sense of awe. He looked back at Serena, meeting her gaze with a knowing expression. "It's clear that there's a deeper connection between us and these discoveries." His words felt heavy with meaning, the weight of their journey pressing on him. As they stood together, the bond between them seemed to grow stronger, their shared purpose in unraveling the island's mysteries becoming ever more apparent. As they knelt beside the spring, its gentle glow illuminating their faces, Adrian and Serena found themselves speaking more openly than they had before. The tranquil setting seemed to draw out their thoughts, allowing them to express things that had remained unspoken during their journey. They shared the challenges they had faced, the moments of doubt, and the fears they had confronted, each word deepening their understanding of one another. The air was filled with the soft hum of magic, but in that moment, it was their connection that felt most powerful. The trials they had faced together had not only tested their physical strength, but had forced them to confront their own inner struggles. Yet, through each obstacle, they had found a way to lean on one another, strengthening their bond in the process. As they spoke, it became clear that these shared experiences had brought them closer, turning their partnership into something more profound. The sense of unity between them was undeniable, as though the land itself had woven their fates together. Adrian turned to Serena, his expression thoughtful as he considered the journey they had shared. The weight of their experiences hung between them, each trial, each discovery, leaving an indelible mark on their partnership. His gaze softened as he reflected on the moments when they had leaned on each other, and how those moments had shaped them both. "We've been through so much," he began, his voice steady but filled with sincerity. "And each challenge we've faced has made me realize how much I value our partnership." His eyes met hers, his admiration clear. "Your strength and insight have been invaluable." There was a depth in his words, a recognition of not just her abilities, but the way she had stood beside him, guiding him through the darkest moments with unwavering determination. Serena met his gaze, her eyes filled with warmth as she took in the depth of his words. The connection between them felt unspoken yet undeniable, built on trust and shared experiences. She could feel the weight of their journey, how it had shaped them both, and how their partnership had evolved into something far more meaningful than either of them had anticipated. "And your leadership and determination have inspired me," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "We've learned so much from each other." She paused, her expression softening as she reflected on everything they had been through. "Our bond has grown stronger with every trial we've faced." The truth of her words was evident in the way she held his gaze, a silent acknowledgement that what they had was something special, something forged in the crucible of their shared adventures. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden rustle in the underbrush. Instantly, both Adrian and Serena stiffened, their senses on high alert. They exchanged a brief glance, their focus sharpening as they instinctively reached for their weapons. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, and the air grew thick with anticipation. Out of the shadows, a figure emerged, cloaked in a shimmering robe that caught the light in an ethereal glow. The figure's presence was commanding, a quiet authority that made the air feel charged. As they stepped forward, a sense of ancient wisdom radiated from them, as if the figure had been watching them for far longer than they had realized. Serena and Adrian both stood motionless, sensing the weight of the moment, unsure of whether this new presence was an ally or something more mysterious. "Welcome, travelers," the figure spoke, their voice resonating with a deep, melodious tone that seemed to reverberate through the very air around them. The words carried a sense of authority, but also a warmth that put Serena and Adrian at ease, despite the mystery surrounding the figure. Their eyes narrowed, both cautious and curious, as they tried to discern the figure's intentions. There was something about the voice, rich and ancient, that suggested they were in the presence of someone far older and wiser than they could comprehend. "You have shown great courage and unity in your exploration of this land," the figure continued, their gaze sweeping over both of them with an intensity that felt almost timeless. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning, as if acknowledging not just their journey, but the deeper bond they had forged through their shared challenges. Serena and Adrian exchanged a glance, the sense that they were being watched and judged for more than just their actions settling between them. The figure's presence was undeniable, and they knew this moment would shape the path ahead. Adrian and Serena exchanged a glance, their curiosity piqued by the figure's sudden appearance and commanding presence. The air between them seemed to crackle with anticipation, and they both instinctively stepped a little closer, as if to prepare for whatever might come next. Their minds raced with questions, each wondering who, or what, this mysterious figure could be, and what role they might play in their journey. Unable to contain his growing curiosity, Adrian stepped forward, his voice steady but laced with intrigue. "Who are you?" he asked, his words carrying a mixture of respect and cautious expectation. The question hung in the air, sharp and direct, as both he and Serena waited for the figure's response. They had faced many challenges already, but this encounter felt different, important. The answer could very well change the course of their adventure, and they were eager to understand who, or what, stood before them. "I am Elyon, the guardian of this realm," the figure replied, their voice carrying an ancient weight that seemed to reverberate through the air. The name echoed in Adrian and Serena's minds, and a sense of reverence settled over them. Elyon's presence was commanding, yet there was a strange comfort in the words, as if they had been expected all along. The figure stood tall, their shimmering robe almost glowing with an ethereal light, a living embodiment of the land's mysteries. "I have been watching your journey with great interest," Elyon continued, their gaze shifting between Adrian and Serena, an intensity in their eyes that felt both knowing and kind. "Your bond has not only allowed you to uncover the secrets of this land but has also revealed the strength of your connection." The weight of the words sank in as they processed the depth of Elyon's statement. It wasn't just their discoveries that mattered, it was the way they had grown together, the strength of their partnership, that had captured the Guardian's attention. Elyon gestured toward the spring, their hands sweeping in a fluid motion as if guiding their attention to the very heart of the land. "This spring is known as the heart of the realm," they explained, their voice filled with reverence for the place. The waters shimmered in the soft light, glowing with a quiet energy that seemed to pulse in time with the land itself. There was something undeniably sacred about it, a sense of power that went beyond the surface, drawing them in with its beauty and mystery. "It reflects the true nature of those who come to it," Elyon continued, their gaze fixed on the waters as if they, too, were drawn to its depths. "The depth of your bond is mirrored in its waters." As they spoke, Adrian and Serena felt a sudden understanding wash over them. The spring was not just a physical feature of the land, it was a living mirror of their connection, capturing the essence of their partnership in a way words could not. The revelation left them both silent for a moment, contemplating the powerful bond they had forged through their trials and adventures. Adrian and Serena turned their attention to the spring, their eyes widening in awe as they took in the sight before them. The waters, once clear and tranquil, now shimmered with vibrant colors, swirling and shifting in a mesmerizing dance. Each movement seemed to pulse with life, as if the very essence of the land had come alive in the spring's reflection. They leaned in closer, captivated by the beauty unfolding before them. As they watched, the swirling patterns began to take shape, revealing glimpses of their journey, the challenges they had faced, the victories they had earned, and the deepening connection between them. It was as if the spring itself was telling the story of their shared experiences, illustrating not just their triumphs but the bond that had grown stronger with each step they took together. The sight left them speechless, their hearts full as they realized how far they had come, and how much they had changed since the beginning of their adventure. Elyon's gaze lingered on Adrian and Serena, their expression one of quiet approval. "The heart of the realm has chosen to reveal the strength of your bond because it is rare and precious," they explained, their voice filled with a deep, knowing resonance. The air seemed to hum with the truth of those words, as if the land itself acknowledged the uniqueness of their connection. The revelation hung in the space between them, underscoring the significance of what they had built together. Elyon's tone softened, yet there was a quiet pride in their words. "Your ability to face challenges together has not only proven your resilience but also strengthened the magic of this land." As the Guardian spoke, the magnitude of their journey seemed to expand, taking on a deeper meaning. It wasn't just their individual strength, or the hurdles they had overcome. It was the way they had stood side by side, supporting each other, that had woven their bond into something far greater than themselves. Their partnership had become a living force, intertwined with the very magic of the realm. As Elian spoke, a deep sense of affirmation washed over Adrian and Serena, their hearts swelling with a quiet understanding. The trials they had faced together had tested them in countless ways, physically, emotionally, and mentally, but through it all, they had remained united. Every challenge had been an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to rely on each other in ways they hadn't anticipated. The journey had reshaped them, and now, hearing Elian's words, they could see the strength they had gained from those trials. The recognition from the Guardian felt like a silent acknowledgement of the bond they had forged through their shared experiences. It was a testament to the depth of their relationship, a validation that went beyond their individual achievements. Adrian and Serena exchanged a look, a quiet understanding passing between them, knowing that the connection they had built was something rare and enduring. The affirmation from Elian only deepened their commitment to each other, reinforcing the strength they had found in their unity. "We are honored," Serena said, her voice thick with gratitude, her eyes reflecting the weight of Elian's words. The recognition they had received was humbling, yet it only deepened her sense of responsibility. As much as they had accomplished, she knew the journey ahead was far from over. There were still countless mysteries to uncover, and the challenges they had already faced were just the beginning of what awaited them. "But we still have much to learn and many challenges ahead," Serena continued, her expression shifting to one of determination. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, aware that their journey was far from complete. The land held more secrets, and the strength of their bond would be tested again. But with Elian's blessing and the lessons they had already learned, she was confident that they could face whatever lay in their path. Elian nodded solemnly, their eyes carrying the weight of centuries of wisdom. "Indeed. The journey you are on is far from over," they said, their voice gentle yet firm. The Guardian's words hung in the air, a reminder that their adventure was just beginning. There was still much to be done, and the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but there was a sense of reassurance in the way Elian spoke, as though they knew the outcome of the trials to come. "The deeper bond you have forged will continue to guide and support you as you face new trials," Elian continued, their gaze unwavering. "Remember that your connection is a source of great strength." The reminder felt like a silent promise, a truth that would help them endure whatever lay ahead. Serena and Adrian exchanged a look, feeling the weight of the Guardian's words settle within them. They had come this far together, and the strength of their bond would carry them through whatever challenges awaited them in the future. With those final words, Elian slowly disappeared into the mist, their form fading until only the lingering presence of their voice remained. The air around them seemed to settle into a peaceful silence, leaving Adrian and Serena standing alone by the spring. The ethereal glow of the water continued to shimmer, its surface reflecting the weight of the moment. It felt as though time itself had paused, allowing them a brief respite to absorb the significance of the encounter. Adrian and Serena stood side by side, taking a moment to reflect on everything they had experienced. The revelations from Elian echoed in their minds, reminding them of the strength they had found in each other, and the challenges that still lay ahead. As the mist swirled around them, they both felt a renewed sense of purpose, their bond fortified by the Guardian's words. Their journey was far from over, but now, more than ever, they knew they were ready to face whatever came next. Adrian reached out and took Serena's hand, his grip firm and reassuring, a silent promise of support. The warmth of his touch brought a sense of grounding to the moment, as if their connection had become something unbreakable, something that had been forged through every trial they had faced. He looked at her with a quiet intensity, his gaze filled with the weight of their shared experiences and the understanding that they had both changed in ways they hadn't fully realized. "We've come a long way, and we've grown so much together," Adrian continued, his voice steady, as if reinforcing the strength of their journey. "No matter what challenges lie ahead, I know that our bond will see us through." The certainty in his words echoed in Serena's heart, and she squeezed his hand in return. Their bond had already carried them through so much, and with each passing moment, it felt as though it was growing stronger. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side. Serena squeezed Adrian's hand, her eyes shining with affection as her heart echoed his sentiment. She felt the depth of their connection in that simple gesture, the unspoken understanding between them stronger than ever. "I feel the same way," she said, her voice soft but full of conviction. "We've built something special, and it's a part of who we are now." The weight of those words settled between them, a reminder that their bond was not just something they had cultivated but had become an intrinsic part of their beings. Her gaze met his, unwavering and filled with trust. "I'm ready to face whatever comes next, with you by my side." The certainty in her voice was palpable, as though their shared journey had prepared them for any challenge the future held. Together, they had already overcome so much, and now, with each step forward, they would continue to face the unknown united, ready to build on the foundation they had created. As they prepared to continue their exploration, Adrian and Serena felt a renewed sense of purpose and unity. The journey they had shared so far had transformed them, each trial deepening their bond in ways they hadn't anticipated. Their connection had become more than just a partnership. It was a foundation they could rely on as they faced the challenges that lay ahead. The future was still uncertain, but the strength they had found in each other made the unknown feel more like an opportunity than a threat. The land around them, still brimming with mysteries, seemed to pulse with potential, yet it was no longer an intimidating enigma. With their bond now stronger than ever, they were ready to face whatever the future held. Each new discovery was no longer a solitary pursuit. It was something they would share, side by side. Their partnership was their greatest strength, and with it, they knew they could unravel the secrets of the land and build a future filled with endless possibilities. Chapter 58: Revisiting Old Foes. The sun had barely begun to rise over the newly discovered land when the Elysium set sail once more, its crew filled with anticipation. The ship cut through the calm waters, the gentle breeze carrying a sense of renewal as it followed a map brimming with tantalizing hints of unexplored territories. Adrian and Serena stood together at the bow, their hearts racing with excitement, the thrill of discovery still fresh in their minds. The bond they shared had deepened in ways they had never expected, and the thought of the adventures that lay ahead only strengthened their resolve. As the horizon stretched out before them, it felt as though the world was opening up, offering untold opportunities and the promise of new challenges. Adrian and Serena, still riding the high of their recent discoveries, shared a quiet moment of anticipation. They had uncovered so much already, yet there was so much more waiting to be explored. With their bond stronger than ever, they were ready to embrace whatever the future held, knowing that together, they could face anything that came their way. The crew worked diligently, their spirits high as they prepared for the day's journey. There was a sense of camaraderie in the air, the steady rhythm of their tasks reinforcing the optimism that had settled over them after their recent discoveries. The calm of the morning seemed to promise a smooth journey ahead, but that tranquility was suddenly disrupted by a sharp cry from the lookout. Eyes turned to the horizon as the lookout spotted a familiar vessel approaching from the distance, its silhouette cutting through the rising mist. Adrian squinted against the glare of the morning sun, his heart sinking as he recognized the ship. A rush of unease washed over him, the memories of past encounters flooding his thoughts. The sight of the approaching vessel, once a symbol of camaraderie, now felt like a harbinger of trouble. As the ship drew closer, Adrian's grip tightened on the railing, knowing that whatever lay ahead would challenge not only their journey but the bond they had worked so hard to build. "It can't be," Adrian muttered, his voice tight with disbelief. His eyes remained fixed on the ship approaching from the distance, his mind racing as the sinking feeling in his chest grew. The last time they had encountered the Ravager, it had been under far less favorable circumstances, and Adrian had hoped that they had seen the last of that cursed vessel. But now, seeing it sail toward them, those old fears resurfaced, dragging him back to the uncertainty and danger that had once surrounded their every move. "That's the Ravager," Adrian continued, his words barely above a whisper, the weight of the recognition settling heavily between them. "I thought we'd seen the last of them." His voice held a mix of frustration and apprehension, as if the return of the Ravager was some cruel twist of fate. Serena, sensing the change in his demeanor, stepped closer, her gaze following his, both of them preparing for the challenge they knew was inevitable. The Ravager was a menacing pirate ship, infamous for its ruthless crew and its notorious captain, Garrett Blackthorne. The name alone had once struck fear into the hearts of many, its reputation forged through countless raids and treacherous deeds. For Adrian, the memories of his past encounters with Blackthorn were tinged with danger and betrayal, each meeting more fraught than the last. The sight of the ship cutting through the waves toward them was enough to send a chill through his veins, bringing back the weight of those unresolved conflicts. As the Ravager drew nearer, Adrian could feel his pulse quicken, old fears resurfacing with a vengeance. The tension that had simmered beneath the surface during their previous encounters with Blackthorn now threatened to boil over. He had hoped to leave that chapter of his life behind, but seeing the ship once more reminded him that some things couldn't be so easily forgotten. The storm of emotions and uncertainties it stirred in him was palpable, and with every passing second, the prospect of facing Blackthorn again loomed larger. As the Ravager drew closer, the atmosphere on the Elysium shifted, the crew instinctively falling into a tense readiness. Every hand was at the ready, prepared for whatever conflict might arise. The threat of Blackthorn's ship approaching loomed over them, a tangible weight that pressed on their shoulders. Adrian and Serena exchanged a worried glance, the unspoken understanding between them clear. They both knew that the calm of their recent discoveries had been fleeting, and the harsh reality of their journey was about to resurface. The resurgence of old adversaries served as a stark reminder that their exploration of uncharted lands was far from a safe adventure. The familiarity of danger was never truly behind them, and the challenges they had faced together now felt distant in comparison to the growing tension. As the Ravager loomed ever closer, they steeled themselves for the confrontation ahead, knowing that whatever came next would test not only their physical strength but the depth of their resolve. Garrett Blackthorn stood at the prow of the Ravager, his cold, calculating eyes locked onto the Elysium. His imposing figure, draped in dark leather and marked by the scars of a life lived in constant conflict, was a sight that sent a chill through those who knew his name. The once feared pirate captain radiated an air of command, his presence alone enough to instill unease. His expression remained unreadable, but the tension in the air was palpable, his gaze unwavering as he watched his enemies with an almost predatory focus. Behind him, the Ravager's crew moved with practiced efficiency, their movements smooth and coordinated, as though they were preparing for a battle they had faced countless times before. Each crew member wore the same hardened look, their experience in conflict evident in the way they readied themselves for what was to come. The ship itself, with its weathered wood and blood-stained reputation, seemed to mirror its crew, dangerous, unyielding, and ruthless. The sight of the Ravager and its crew, poised for action, left no doubt that the confrontation between them and the Elysium would be anything but easy. The two ships drew closer, the tension between them thickening with every passing moment. The Elysium's crew readied themselves, each person aware of the impending confrontation. Adrian stood at the helm, his mind racing, every instinct telling him to brace for impact. His grip on the wheel tightened, the weight of the situation pressing down on him as the Ravager loomed larger in the distance. The sound of creaking wood and the flapping of sails added to the heavy silence, amplifying the impending sense of conflict. Adrian took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He had hoped their paths would never cross again, that the darkness of his past would remain buried with the memory of Blackthorn and his crew. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The cold reality of the situation settled in, and Adrian knew that no matter how much he wished to avoid it, the storm of battle was now inevitable. He glanced at Serena, a silent understanding passing between them. This was a fight they had to face together. "Prepare for battle," Adrian ordered, his voice steady, though the anxiety gnawing at him was palpable. His gaze remained focused on the approaching Ravager, his mind racing through strategies and possible outcomes. Despite the fear that threatened to rise within him, he couldn't afford to show any hesitation. The crew, sensing the urgency, immediately sprang into action, moving with practiced precision. The sound of feet pounding across the deck and the sharp calls of commands filled the air as they readied themselves for the impending clash. The crew worked quickly and efficiently, manning the cannons and securing the ship for battle. Sailors scrambled to tighten ropes, while others hauled crates of ammunition into position. The once calm atmosphere was now a whirlwind of motion, the quiet replaced by the rhythmic sound of preparation. Adrian stood firm, watching the crew with a mix of pride and anxiety, knowing the battle ahead would test them all. Every decision, every movement, could make the difference between survival and defeat. As the Ravager closed in, the tension on the water thickened, and Garrett Blackthorn's voice rang out, carrying a menacing edge across the distance. "Adrian Blackwood," he called, the name laced with bitterness. "I should have known you'd be the one to come poking around in these waters." His words dripped with venom, as if the mere mention of Adrian's name stirred up old animosities. Blackthorn stood tall at the prow, his eyes locked onto Adrian with a chilling intensity, his presence demanding attention. "You always did have a knack for stirring up trouble," Blackthorn continued, his voice growing colder as the gap between the two ships narrowed. The taunt cut through the air, filled with years of animosity and unspoken grudges. Adrian's grip tightened on the wheel, the familiar weight of their rivalry settling over him. Blackthorn's presence on the battlefield was a reminder of the past Adrian had tried to leave behind, and now, with the Ravager closing in, it seemed that past would be dragged back into the present. Adrian stepped forward, his expression grim and unwavering as he faced the approaching threat. "Blackthorn," he called out, his voice calm but laced with an edge of tension. "What brings you back into our path? I thought we settled our differences a long time ago." His words carried a quiet authority, a reminder of their shared history and the unresolved tension that lingered between them. Blackthorn's lips curled into a cold smirk, the air around him crackling with his unmistakable arrogance. "Differences like ours are never truly settled, Blackwood," he replied, his voice carrying easily over the waves. "And besides, I couldn't resist the opportunity to cross paths with an old rival again." The words hung in the air, a challenge as much as a declaration, leaving no doubt that whatever lay ahead would force Adrian to confront not only Blackthorn but the shadows of their shared past. Blackthorn's lips curled into a smirk, his expression as sharp as the blade at his side. "You may have thought so, Blackwood," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "But old grudges die hard. Some wounds run too deep to simply fade away." His piercing gaze locked onto Adrian, a mixture of disdain and calculated menace evident in his demeanor. He gestured toward the horizon with a lazy wave of his hand, his smirk widening. "I'm here for something of great value, and wouldn't you know it, you're in my way once again." The words carried a veiled threat, a reminder of the danger that came with standing in opposition to him. The weight of their past conflicts hung between them like a storm cloud, promising that whatever came next would be far from peaceful. A ripple of unease spread across the deck of the Elysium, the murmurs of the crew reflecting the tension in the air. Blackthorn's name carried weight, a shadowy reputation that preceded him. Adrian could see it in their wary glances and tightened grips on weapons, the realization that this encounter could spiral into something far worse than they had anticipated. Adrian's jaw tightened as he took in the looming figure of Blackthorn on the opposing ship. The man's presence was more than a mere annoyance. It was a warning. Relentless and cunning, Blackthorn had a way of turning even the smallest advantage into a devastating blow. Adrian's instincts screamed that the pirate's reappearance was no coincidence. Whatever the Ravager sought, it was bound to interfere with their mission, and potentially endanger everyone aboard. Adrian's voice rang out, firm and resolute. "Don't think you can intimidate us," he called across the water, meeting Blackthorn's smug expression with unwavering defiance. "We're not the same people we were before. We've grown stronger and more prepared." The words carried a weight that steadied the crew, a reminder of the trials they had overcome and the unity they had forged in the face of adversity. Blackthorn's smirk faltered for a brief moment, replaced by a flicker of curiosity and perhaps a trace of respect. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared, replaced with his usual air of superiority. His gaze swept over the Elysium, measuring its crew and the determination in Adrian's stance. "We'll see about that," he said, his tone sharp and mocking, but Adrian could sense the hint of caution beneath the bravado. Blackthorn's laughter rang out, harsh and mocking, echoing over the waves like a foreboding omen. "Strength and preparation won't save you from me," he sneered, his voice dripping with confidence. "We'll see how well you fare against old foes." His words carried the weight of past encounters, a reminder of the dangerous history they shared and the cunning adversary they now faced once again. The crew of the Elysium tensed at his challenge, their resolve hardening. Adrian's jaw tightened, but he refused to be rattled. "We've overcome worse than you, Blackthorn," he muttered under his breath, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Beside him, Serena's eyes narrowed, her quiet strength bolstering his resolve. Together, they braced for the confrontation ahead, determined not to let their past define the outcome of the battle to come. The confrontation loomed closer with every passing moment, the tension between the two ships thick enough to cut. Adrian and Serena stood side by side, their minds racing as they quickly strategized. Each of them brought vital skills to the table, Adrian's tactical brilliance honed through years of command, and Serena's deep knowledge of ancient magic, a force that could shift the balance in their favor. They exchanged a determined glance, unspoken understanding passing between them. Every decision carried weight, and the stakes had never felt higher. The Elysium's crew looked to their leaders for guidance, their trust evident in the way they readied themselves without hesitation. Serena's fingers brushed the talisman she carried, drawing strength from their latent power, while Adrian mentally mapped out maneuvers and fallback plans. Together, they stood at the helm, prepared to face whatever the clash would bring, knowing that their unity and skill would be the key to overcoming the threat ahead. The battle began with a deafening roar as the first cannon volleys were exchanged, sending plumes of smoke and shards of wood into the air. The Elysium and the Ravager moved with practiced precision, each vessel maneuvering to outflank the other. Explosions reverberated across the water, the sea itself seeming to tremble under the weight of the confrontation. The cries of sailors and the clash of steel against steel added to the chaos as the battle raged on, either side willing to concede. Adrian moved across the deck with purpose, his commands sharp and decisive as he rallied his crew. His unwavering focus kept their efforts coordinated, even amidst the relentless assault. Each order was met with swift action, the crew responding to his leadership with determination. The Elysium fought valiantly, its defenders driven not just by survival, but by their loyalty to Adrian and their mission. As the struggle for dominance intensified, the stakes became clear. This was a battle that would determine far more than control of the seas. Serena stood at the center of the deck, her hands weaving intricate patterns in the air as she summoned her magical defenses. Barriers of shimmering energy sprang to life, glowing with an otherworldly light as they intercepted incoming cannonballs and absorbed the brunt of the assault. The explosions that would have torn through the Elysium dissipated against her shields, her magic holding strong despite the unrelenting barrage. Amidst the chaos, Serena remained a steadying force, her calm composure inspiring those around her. The strain of maintaining the protective barriers was evident, but her resolve never wavered. Every spell she cast was driven by her determination to protect the crew and ensure their survival. Her power, combined with Adrian's leadership, gave the Elysium a fighting chance against their formidable foe. Amidst the thunder of cannon fire and the shouts of their crew, Adrian and Serena pieced together Blackthorn's true objective. His relentless assault wasn't just about defeating the Elysium. It was about claiming the artifact they had recently uncovered. The relic, an ancient item radiating immense power, was central to their quest and now the focus of Blackthorn's greed. Realization struck hard, heightening the stakes of the battle. Losing the artifact to Blackthorn would mean more than a setback. It would jeopardize everything they had worked for. Adrian and Serena exchanged a determined glance, silently vowing to protect the relic at all costs. Their mission had taken on a new urgency, and they steeled themselves to outwit their cunning adversary. With the realization of Blackthorn's true objective, Adrian and Serena's determination solidified. They moved with a shared purpose, their actions a testament to the bond they had forged through countless trials. Adrian's sharp commands guided the crew with precision, while Serena's magical prowess shielded the artifact from the chaos of the battle. Every maneuver was deliberate, their unity allowing them to anticipate each other's moves seamlessly. Amidst the thunder of cannon fire and the clash of steel, their combined efforts became a force to be reckoned with. The crew of the Elysium rallied around their leaders, inspired by their unwavering resolve. Together, they pushed back against Blackthorn's relentless assault, their singular focus on safeguarding the artifact fueling their every action. In the midst of the chaos, Blackthorn seized the opportunity to board the Elysium, his crew storming the deck with ruthless precision. The ship became a war zone, with the sounds of clashing swords and the cries of battle echoing through the air. The crew of the Elysium fought valiantly to repel the attackers, but the ferocity of Blackthorn's crew was overwhelming. At the heart of the conflict, Adrian and Blackthorn locked eyes, their long-standing rivalry erupting into a fierce duel. Their swords clashed with a violence that mirrored the bitterness between them, each strike fueled by the weight of past betrayals and unresolved grudges. The battle between them was not just physical, it was a culmination of years of animosity, each blow exchanged a reminder of their tumultuous history. As Adrian and Blackthorn clashed in their brutal duel, Serena's instincts kicked in, and she quickly shifted her focus to protecting the Elysium. She raised her hands, her magic flowing effortlessly as she summoned shimmering barriers of energy to deflect incoming attacks from Blackthorn's crew. Her power surged through the air, forming a protective shield around the ship, keeping the enemies at bay and allowing her comrades to fend off the assault. With a clear purpose, Serena's concentration remained unwavering as she maintained the magical barrier around Adrian. She knew that the outcome of this battle rested on his victory, and she couldn't afford for anything to distract him. Her determination was evident as she cast spell after spell, her magic a steady force ensuring that the ship remained secure and that Adrian could face Blackthorn without the worry of external threats. The duel between Adrian and Blackthorn was a brutal dance of steel and strategy, each strike echoing the weight of their past. Adrian's every move was calculated, his focus sharp, determined to overcome the pirate captain who had haunted him for so long. Blackthorn's relentless aggression met Adrian's precise, measured responses as they exchanged blow after blow, either willing to back down. The intensity of the fight was palpable, a battle not just for survival, but for the closure both men had sought for years. Adrian's heart raced with the urgency of the moment, his anger pushing him to fight harder. Blackthorn's overwhelming ferocity was matched by Adrian's unyielding resolve. Each clash of their swords carried the weight of their history, the rivalry between them fueled by years of unresolved tension. But Adrian was focused, every move born of careful thought and hard-earned experience. He knew that only through his strategic prowess could he outlast Blackthorn's ferocity and turn the tide of this long-awaited confrontation. With a swift and calculated move, Adrian disarmed Blackthorn, sending his sword flying across the deck. The pirate captain staggered back, his defiance fading as he realized the fight had been lost. Adrian stood tall, his chest heaving with exertion, as Blackthorn's retreat became inevitable. The once feared pirate captain had been bested, his crew left with no choice but to fall back. The Elysium's crew erupted in victorious cheers as the Ravager, battered and broken, withdrew from the battlefield. The cannon smoke hung heavy in the air, but the ship was theirs. Though the battle had been hard fought, the threat had been vanquished, and Adrian and Serena's efforts had secured the ship and the artifact. With Blackthorn retreating, the crew of the Elysium stood proud, knowing they had weathered yet another storm together. As the Ravager disappeared into the distance, Adrian and Serena stood side by side, surveying the aftermath of the battle. The Elysium bore the scars of the fight, splintered wood, scorched sails, and the lingering smell of gunpowder in the air. Despite the damage, the ship remained afloat, a testament to the crew's grit and determination. Adrian ran a hand through his hair, his gaze steady as he took in the scene. The battle had been grueling, but they had triumphed. Looking at Serena, he saw the same resolve reflected in her eyes. Their bond had been tested once more, and they had emerged victorious, stronger than ever. The battle had been fierce, but it was the resilience they shared that had ultimately carried them through. "We've dealt with them once again," Serena said, her voice tinged with exhaustion as she gazed out at the retreating Ravager. The battle had taken its toll on her, but there was a quiet strength in her words. She had fought with everything she had, and yet the lingering weight of the encounter remained. Adrian nodded in agreement, his expression somber. "Old foes never truly disappear," he said, his gaze drifting to the damage still visible on the ship. He knew that this victory, while hard-earned, was only a temporary respite. Blackthorn's presence had shown that the past was never fully behind them, and their journey was far from over. Adrian nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon, the weight of the battle still lingering in his mind. "We'll have to remain vigilant," he said, his voice steady but laced with a quiet determination. The future was uncertain, and the threat of Blackthorn's return was a stark reminder that danger could appear at any moment. But Adrian knew that as long as they stayed watchful, they could weather whatever storm came their way. "There will always be challenges," he continued, turning to Serena, his expression unwavering. "But as long as we face them together, we'll overcome anything." His words were not just a reassurance to her, but a promise, a commitment to their partnership, one that had been tested and strengthened with every trial they had faced. The crew of the Elysium worked tirelessly to repair the damage from the battle, their movements swift and purposeful as they tended to the wounded. The ship's deck was littered with splintered wood and scattered supplies, but their resolve remained unshaken. Despite the scars of the fight, there was a quiet sense of unity among the crew, as everyone played their part in ensuring the ship would sail again. The battle with Blackthorn had been a harsh reminder of the dangers that lurked on the horizon, yet it also served to reinforce the strength of their bond. Adrian, Serena, and their crew had faced adversity together and emerged victorious, their shared experiences only deepening their determination. With every repair made and every task completed, their resolve to continue their quest only grew stronger, knowing that as long as they stayed united, they could face whatever lay ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the ocean, Adrian and Serena stood together on the deck of the Elysium, their silhouettes outlined against the darkening sky. The stars began to twinkle overhead, a silent reminder of the vastness of the world before them. They had faced their old adversaries and emerged victorious, but their hearts knew that this was only one chapter in a much larger story. The night was peaceful, yet they remained vigilant, their minds already turning to the future. The world around them was filled with both old and new challenges, but Adrian and Serena were undeterred. They had conquered the trials of the past with unwavering courage and unity, and they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. Side by side, they stood firm, their bond stronger than ever, knowing that no matter what challenges the world would throw at them, they would meet them with the same determination and strength that had brought them this far. The adventure was far from over. Their bond had been tested once again, each trial strengthening the connection between them. In the wake of their victory, they stood together, a quiet understanding passing between them. The Ravager was now a fading shadow on the horizon, but the battle had only solidified their trust and resolve. The challenges they had faced had reinforced what they knew to be true. Their partnership was an unshakable foundation, a source of immense strength. With the threat of Blackthorn behind them, Adrian and Serena turned their gaze to the horizon, the future unfolding before them. There would be new adventures, new trials, and perhaps more dangers, but they were ready to face them with courage and unity. Whatever the future held, they knew they could meet it together, their bond guiding them through whatever came next. Chapter 59 A Test of Resolve. The tranquil waters of the newly discovered realm offered a false sense of calm, masking the brewing storm of challenges that still loomed over Adrian and Serena. Though their encounter with Garrett Blackthorn and the Ravager had ended in victory, the crew of the Elysium knew that the threat of danger was never far behind. The defeat of their old adversary had granted them a brief respite, but the weight of uncertainty still hung in the air, a constant reminder that their journey was far from over. As they resumed their exploration, their spirits remained high, yet their minds were cautious and alert. Every new discovery, every unexplored territory, seemed to carry with it the potential for new trials. Despite their recent success, the sense of looming danger never fully dissipated, and they remained prepared for whatever the realm had yet to throw at them. Their bond and determination were stronger than ever, but the road ahead was still uncertain. Their latest map had led them to a series of uncharted islands, each one rumored to hold treasures and secrets long lost to time. The islands were shrouded in mist, their jagged peaks rising sharply from the sea, and dense forests blanketed their shores, casting an aura of mystery and foreboding. The mere sight of them sent a chill through the crew, knowing that these lands had been hidden for a reason, perhaps guarding knowledge or danger from an era forgotten. As the Elysium navigated through the treacherous waters towards the first island, Adrian and Serena stood together on the deck, discussing their next steps. The sense of excitement and anticipation hung in the air, but so did the awareness that the journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty. The islands could hold unimaginable riches, but they could also be the setting of untold dangers. Their partnership and resolve would be tested once again as they ventured into the unknown. "We need to be cautious," Serena said, her gaze fixed on the mist-shrouded islands ahead. Her voice was steady, but there was a wariness in her eyes. "These islands are known for their hidden dangers. The legends speak of trials designed to test even the bravest explorers, challenging them in ways they may not expect." Adrian nodded, his expression thoughtful. He had faced countless dangers in his life, but something about this place felt different, more ancient, more enigmatic. "We'll take it slow," he said. "We've faced plenty of challenges, and we'll face this one together. Whatever trials await, we'll be ready for them." Their bond, forged through so many battles and tests, would be their greatest strength as they ventured further into the unknown. Adrian nodded, his expression serious as he stared at the misty islands ahead. "We've faced many threats before, but I have a feeling these islands will be different," he said, his voice tinged with caution. "We need to stay sharp and be prepared for anything." The weight of his words lingered in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the unknown dangers that lay ahead. Serena met his gaze, her own resolve hardening. "We will be," she replied, her voice steady and confident. "Together, we've always found a way through. Whatever challenges await us, we'll face them head-on, just like we always do." The unspoken understanding between them strengthened their determination, ready to tackle the trials that were certain to come. The crew disembarked onto the first island, stepping onto a rugged landscape marked by towering cliffs and dense jungle. The air was thick with humidity, a heavy warmth that clung to their skin as they made their way through the untamed terrain. The sounds of exotic creatures echoed around them, creating an eerie symphony as they ventured deeper into the island, their every step cautious but eager. As they pushed forward, the thick jungle slowly began to give way to ancient ruins, their stone walls half buried and overtaken by the relentless growth of vines and moss. The sight of these forgotten structures spoke of a time long past, their mysterious presence adding to the island's enigmatic allure. The crew paused, taking in the remnants of a once great civilization, the weight of their discoveries beginning to settle in. The ruins were an impressive sight, their stonework etched with intricate symbols and patterns that hinted at the island's rich and ancient history. Despite the beauty and mystery of the structures, Adrian and Serena were careful not to let the grandeur of the place distract them. They had learned from experience that such sights often held more danger than they appeared. Adrian and Serena exchanged a knowing glance, both understanding that the true challenge likely lay hidden beneath the surface. The island's alluring exterior could easily mask the trials and traps that awaited them. With caution and resolve, they prepared to delve deeper into the ruins, knowing that their journey was only just beginning. Their first test came sooner than expected. As Adrian, Serena, and the crew ventured deeper into the ruins, their footfalls triggered a series of ancient traps, set to protect the island's secrets. Stone blocks slid into place with a deafening rumble, creating barriers and obstacles that blocked their path. The suddenness of the threat heightened the stakes, forcing them to act quickly and decisively. The crew sprang into action, their movements synchronized and instinctive as they navigated through the perilous maze. Adrian's sharp mind and Serena's magical abilities guided them, while the crew's quick thinking and agility helped them evade the dangers. Each step brought them closer to their goal, but the relentless traps reminded them that the island would not easily give up its secrets. Serena focused her energy, tapping into her magic to sense the hidden, magical traps embedded within the ruins. With a wave of her hand, shimmering barriers materialized, deflecting the dangers around them. Her powers illuminated hidden pathways, revealing safe routes that guided the crew through the labyrinthine corridors, each step a careful calculation of her ability to protect them. Adrian stood at the forefront, his tactical mind working in overdrive as he coordinated the crew's movements. He ensured that everyone remained vigilant and safe, making quick decisions to avoid the ever-present threats. His leadership, combined with Serena's magical prowess, made them an unstoppable force as they navigated the treacherous ruins, inching closer to whatever secrets the island held. Despite their best efforts, the trials grew increasingly difficult as they ventured deeper into the ruins. The traps became more intricate, demanding faster reflexes and sharper instincts to avoid disaster. Hidden chambers revealed themselves, each containing ancient puzzles that seemed to mock their every step. The puzzles, with their cryptic designs and enigmatic mechanisms, tested not only their physical endurance but also their intellect and resourcefulness. Adrian and Serena's resolve was pushed to the limit as they worked through each new challenge. They relied heavily on their combined strengths, Serena's magic and Adrian's strategic mind, to unravel the mysteries that lay before them. Each puzzle demanded more from them, but with every success, their bond deepened. Their ability to solve the puzzles was not just about skill, but the unwavering trust and teamwork they had built over time. The most daunting test came when they discovered a chamber containing a massive stone door, its surface adorned with a series of intricate, ancient symbols. The door loomed over them, an impenetrable barrier that could only be unlocked by solving a series of riddles etched into the surrounding walls. The weight of the challenge was palpable as they studied the symbols, knowing that the answers held the key to progressing further into the ruins. The riddles that appeared on the walls were cryptic and demanding, each one more puzzling than the last. They required not only deep thought but also an understanding of the island's long-lost history and culture. Adrian and Serena worked together, drawing on their knowledge, intuition, and teamwork to decipher each riddle. It was a test that pushed them to their limits, but with each answer they uncovered, the door inched closer to opening, drawing them closer to the mysteries that awaited beyond. Adrian and Serena's minds raced as they worked together to decipher the riddles, each clue building on the last. The intensity of the situation sharpened their focus, pushing them to think faster and more creatively. With each challenge, their bond grew stronger, and their combined efforts eventually led to a breakthrough. The final riddle was solved, and with a deep, resonant creak, the massive stone door slowly began to open. Beyond the door lay a hidden chamber, its interior bathed in the soft glow of ancient artifacts and treasure. The walls were lined with relics, their significance lost to time, but their value undeniable. Serena and Adrian stood in awe, their hard work and determination rewarded with the discovery of secrets long forgotten. The sight before them confirmed that the island's mysteries were far from over, and the journey that lay ahead would be just as perilous and wondrous as they had imagined. Their triumph was fleeting. As soon as they stepped into the chamber, a low, ominous hum filled the air, followed by the sudden sound of an alarm echoing through the ruins. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and the walls began to shift, inching closer with every passing moment. It became clear that the island's ancient guardians had set a deadly trap to deter any who dared uncover its secrets. Adrian and Serena's hearts raced as they assessed the situation. The once peaceful chamber had transformed into a lethal maze, with the narrowing walls threatening to crush them. Panic set in for only a moment before their instincts kicked in. They had faced danger before, and this time, they would not let it claim them. Together, they quickly devised a plan to escape the deadly trap, their bond and quick thinking the only thing standing between them and disaster. The chamber morphed into a deadly gauntlet, the walls closing in and shifting at a frantic pace, creating new obstacles at every turn. Adrian and Serena's hearts pounded as they darted between collapsing stone pillars and leaping over sudden gaps in the floor. The once serene space had become a labyrinth of peril, and each step had to be calculated with precision. There was no room for error. One misstep could mean the end. Together, Adrian and Serena moved with a seamless fluidity, their bond and coordination allowing them to anticipate and overcome the challenges in their path. Each obstacle tested not only their physical skills but their trust in one another. They exchanged no words, yet their movements spoke volumes, their unity guiding them through the treacherous gauntlet. As they neared the final stretch, their strength and determination were the only things keeping them alive. With Serena's magical insight and Adrian's tactical commands, the pair led their crew through the shifting maze of traps, narrowly avoiding the deadliest hazards. Serena's magic protected them from the worst of the dangers, illuminating safe paths and shielding them from falling debris. Adrian's quick thinking and precise directions ensured that they stayed one step ahead of the deadly obstacles. Together, they navigated the perilous chamber, their efforts paying off as they made their way to the exit. By the time they escaped the chamber, the adrenaline had worn off, leaving them physically exhausted and emotionally drained. Despite the success, a heavy silence lingered in the air, the weight of the close call settling on them. They were alive, but the cost of their narrow escape was clear, an overwhelming mix of relief and fatigue that left them reflecting on the challenges ahead. As they emerged from the depths of the ruins, the sun began its descent, casting a warm, golden hue over the island's rugged landscape. The challenges they had faced that day were not easily forgotten. Each obstacle had tested their resolve, pushing them to the very edge of their endurance. Yet, despite the exhaustion that clung to them, there was a shared sense of accomplishment that filled the air. They had overcome the traps, puzzles, and threats that the island had thrown at them. The treasure they had uncovered now lay before them, a symbol of their perseverance and unity. The artifacts gleamed in the fading light, reflecting their hard-earned victory. It was a testament to their strength, both as individuals and as a team. As the last of the sunlight bathed the island, Adrian and Serena exchanged a glance, their bond strengthened even further by the trials they had faced and conquered together. Adrian and Serena stood side by side, their gazes fixed on the horizon as the weight of the day's challenges settled in. The trials they had endured had pushed them to their limits, each test demanding more of them than the last. Yet, through every moment of doubt and difficulty, their shared strength had kept them grounded, their connection a constant source of support. As they exchanged a quiet glance, the sense of relief that washed over them was palpable. They had faced dangers and obstacles that few could survive, but their bond had proven to be their greatest asset. Together, they had overcome each trial, and in doing so, had grown even stronger. The satisfaction of their victory lingered, but it was their unity that truly filled them with pride. "We made it through," Serena said, her voice weary but filled with a quiet triumph. Her shoulders sagged slightly from the weight of the trials they had just overcome, but there was a sense of pride in her words. "It wasn't easy," she continued, glancing at the path they had navigated, "but we faced the challenges together." Adrian nodded in agreement, his own exhaustion reflected in the deep lines of his face. "Together," he repeated, the word holding more weight than just a simple acknowledgement. It was a reminder of everything they had accomplished as a team, every step, every struggle, and every victory shared between them. They had proven to themselves that no matter how hard the journey became, their bond would carry them through. Adrian nodded, his gaze focused on the horizon where the sun dipped beneath the clouds, casting a warm glow over the sea. "These islands have shown us just how much we've grown," he said, his voice quiet but steady. The weight of the challenges they had faced on the islands lingered in his words, but there was a quiet strength in them. "Our resolve has been tested," he continued, the enormity of their trials clear in his tone. "But we've come out stronger." Serena stood beside him, watching the same horizon, her thoughts mirroring his. She had felt the strain of each trial, each obstacle that had tried to break them, but like Adrian, she knew they had emerged unscathed, their bond deeper and their spirits firmer. She had never doubted them, but seeing the truth in Adrian's words brought a sense of peace to her heart. They were ready for whatever the future held, their strength now unshakable. As they prepared to return to the Elysium, Adrian and Serena paused for a moment, reflecting on the trials they had faced. The journey through the island had been grueling, testing both their skills and their endurance. Yet, through it all, their partnership had only grown stronger, each challenge reinforcing the deep bond between them. Their ability to face the dangers together had become their greatest asset, and they both knew that it would carry them through whatever came next. The challenges they had encountered served as a stark reminder of the perils that still awaited them, but they no longer felt fear. Instead, they carried with them a renewed sense of purpose, their resolve steeled by the experiences they had shared. As they set their sights on the horizon, they knew the path ahead would not be easy, but with their unity and determination, they were ready to face it head-on. Their journey was far from over, and the uncharted territories ahead promised to hold many more secrets and challenges. Yet, with each trial they had overcome, Adrian and Serena's resolve had been tested and their bond had grown even stronger. The path they walked was uncertain, but they knew they could face whatever obstacles came their way together. As their adventure continued, they moved forward with a renewed sense of purpose. With courage in their hearts and unity in their spirits, Adrian and Serena were ready for whatever the future held. The unknowns no longer seemed as daunting. What mattered most was that they would face them side by side. Chapter 60: The Ultimate Test. The Elysium sailed deeper into the heart of a vast, uncharted ocean, where the sky hung heavy with a foreboding gray and the waves crashed with an intensity unlike anything they had encountered before. Adrian and Serena stood side by side on the deck, their eyes fixed on the horizon, searching for any sign of the mysterious land that lay ahead. The map they had uncovered, aged and worn, pointed to a place known only in whispered legends, an uncharted territory that promised both danger and reward for those daring enough to seek it. As the ship cut through the turbulent waters, the sense of anticipation hung in the air. This was no ordinary journey. The legends spoke of the greatest of trials awaiting those who ventured into this unknown realm. Adrian and Serena knew that they were about to face something far more daunting than anything they had encountered before, yet the lure of discovery and the promise of unlocking its secrets drove them forward with unwavering resolve. "We're entering the region marked on the map," Serena said, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of tension despite the ominous weather. She scanned the darkening sky and the restless ocean around them. "The legends call it the Abyssal Trial. It's said to be the ultimate test of strength and resolve, one that only the bravest, or most foolish, choose to undertake." Adrian's gaze hardened as he took in the vast, tumultuous sea surrounding them. The weight of Serena's words settled over him, but he refused to let fear take root. They had faced trials before, and each challenge had only served to strengthen their bond. With the abyssal trial ahead of them, the stakes were higher than ever, but their determination burned brighter than any doubt. Adrian nodded, his expression serious as he surveyed the raging sea around them. The weight of their next challenge hung heavy in the air, and he knew they were about to face something unlike any enemy they had confronted before. The abyssal trial was a legend for a reason, and its dangers were likely beyond anything they could predict. "We've faced many challenges, but this one might be unlike anything we've encountered before," Adrian continued, his voice low and resolute. "We need to stay sharp and be prepared for the worst. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together, but we can't afford to underestimate what lies ahead." As they neared the coordinates, the sea began to churn, growing increasingly tumultuous. Dark storm clouds loomed overhead, casting a shadow over the ship. The Elysium rocked violently, its wooden frame creaking under the pressure of towering waves crashing relentlessly against its sides. The wind howled through the rigging, and the crew scrambled to maintain control, their every move a battle against the rising fury of the ocean. Despite the chaos, the crew worked tirelessly, their faces set in grim determination as they fought to keep the ship steady. Adrian and Serena stood at the helm, guiding the ship through the storm, their expressions unwavering. The storm tested them all, but their resolve remained firm, knowing that the trials of the abyssal trial awaited just beyond the tempest. Through the storm, a dark, jagged island slowly emerged from the mist, its silhouette cutting a stark contrast to the previous, more serene islands they had explored. The island loomed ominously ahead, its rugged cliffs rising sharply from the churning sea, and its surface marked by deep ravines and sheer rock faces. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, as if the island itself was holding its breath, waiting for the crew to make their approach. The treacherous terrain of the island hinted at the dangers that awaited them, a place not meant for the faint of heart. The cliffs were jagged and unforgiving, while the jungle below seemed dense and impenetrable. Adrian and Serena exchanged wary glances, both knowing that the island was more than just a physical challenge. It was a test of their will, their strength, and their resolve. Adrian and Serena took the lead, guiding the crew as they skillfully navigated the Elysium through the relentless storm. The ship rocked dangerously, but with their experienced hands at the helm, they managed to anchor it safely near the jagged shore. As the storm finally began to subside, the sea's fury calmed just enough to allow them a brief moment of respite. However, the oppressive atmosphere lingered, and an unsettling silence hung in the air, filling the crew with a sense of unease. With the anchor secure, they disembarked, each step heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. The island's dark, foreboding presence seemed to draw them in, as if daring them to face the trials it held. Adrian and Serena shared a glance, both feeling the pull of destiny. They had come this far, and though the challenges ahead were unknown, they were resolute. With hearts steeled for the journey, they prepared to venture into the heart of the island, ready to confront whatever it had in store. The island was unnervingly quiet, its stillness broken only by the faint, distant sound of rushing water echoing through the dense foliage. As Adrian and Serena led the crew inland, the weight of the silence pressed in around them, heightening their awareness of every movement and sound. The dense jungle gave way to a clearing, where they discovered a massive stone gateway standing stark against the landscape, its surface etched with intricate ancient runes that shimmered in the fading light. The air around it seemed charged, as if the gateway itself held a long-forgotten power. Flanking the entrance were towering statues, their features worn by time yet still formidable. The statues stood as silent sentinels, their eyes carved with an intense, unyielding expression that seemed to watch over the path ahead. The grandeur of the gateway and the statues suggested that this was no ordinary place, but a threshold to something ancient and powerful. As Adrian and Serena exchanged a look, both understood that this was the beginning of the trial they had come to face, one that would test them in ways they could not yet fathom. The runes on the gateway glowed with a faint, ethereal light, casting an otherworldly glow that illuminated the darkening path ahead. The soft shimmer of the symbols seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, as if the gateway itself were alive, waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. The air grew thicker with a sense of ancient power, and the crew fell silent, all eyes fixed on the mysterious entrance. Serena stepped closer, her gaze fixed intently on the runes as she carefully studied their intricate designs. Her brow furrowed in concentration, her mind racing to decipher their meaning. She traced the edges of the glowing symbols with her fingers, feeling the faint hum of magic that resonated from them. Each rune seemed to hold a puzzle, and she knew the key to unlocking whatever lay beyond the gateway was hidden within them. The weight of their importance hung in the air, and she felt the pressure of the unknown bearing down on her as she prepared to unravel the mystery. "This is a warded entrance," Serena said, her voice tinged with awe as she stepped back, taking in the full scope of the glowing runes. The magic radiating from the gateway was palpable, a force that seemed to press against her, testing her strength and resolve. She could feel the weight of the enchantment, designed not only to protect but to challenge those who dared approach. It was clear this place was not meant for the unprepared or faint of heart. "It's designed to keep out those who aren't prepared for the trials within," she continued, her gaze still fixed on the runes. There was a mix of wonder and caution in her eyes, as if the sheer power of the ward had both awed and warned her. The entrance wasn't just a physical barrier, it was a test, a reminder that whatever lay beyond required not only physical strength but mental and emotional fortitude. The trials ahead would demand everything from them, and Serena knew they would need to be at their very best to survive. Adrian took a deep breath, the weight of the moment settling heavily on his shoulders. The island, the gateway, and the trials beyond all loomed before him, each one a reminder of the perilous journey they had embarked on. His gaze swept over Serena and the crew, their faces a mixture of determination and uncertainty, all of them knowing that they had no choice but to move forward. He could feel the pull of the unknown, urging them to take the next step into the heart of the island's mysteries. "We've come this far," Adrian said, his voice steady despite the unease gnawing at him. "We need to face whatever challenges await us." His words were a promise, not just to his crew, but to himself. He had led them this far, and he couldn't allow fear to take root now. They had prepared for this moment, and now it was time to see if their strength, resolve, and unity would be enough to overcome the trials that lay ahead. With a wave of Serena's hand, the ancient runes on the gateway glowed brighter, and the massive stone door groaned as it slowly opened. The air beyond felt thick with ancient power, and the crew hesitated for a moment, their eyes drawn to the darkness that awaited them. Beyond the gateway stretched a labyrinth of chambers and corridors, each one more intimidating than the last. The path was not just a test of strength, but of wit, courage, and resilience. Every step forward promised new challenges that would push them in ways they hadn't yet imagined. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinth, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. Each corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, and every chamber they entered presented a new trial that tested their resolve. The trials weren't simply physical. They required them to confront their deepest fears, unravel cryptic puzzles, and make decisions that could have lasting consequences. Adrian and Serena knew that their mental and emotional fortitude would be just as crucial as their physical strength in overcoming the challenges ahead. The first chamber stretched out before them, a vast and dimly lit expanse filled with shifting illusions that seemed to twist the very fabric of reality. As they stepped inside, the air grew thick, and strange visions began to emerge. The illusions conjured fearsome apparitions, hallucinations of past enemies they had fought, phantoms of lost comrades who had fallen in battle, and the haunting shadows of their darkest memories. Each vision was vivid, as if these specters had come alive to torment them, forcing them to face their worst fears and regrets. Adrian and Serena knew that the true challenge was not in confronting these illusions, but in maintaining their focus and distinguishing between what was real and what was a mere trick of the mind. The chamber pushed their mental endurance to the limit, each vision designed to throw them off balance, to make them question their resolve. As the chaos swirled around them, they had to rely on their shared strength and unwavering determination to stay grounded and press forward, no matter how powerful the illusions became. Adrian and Serena moved through the illusions with careful deliberation, relying on their sharp minds and deep connection to guide them. Each vision tried to push them to the brink, but they refused to let the specters of their past consume them. They worked in tandem, using strategic thinking to decipher the illusions and counter them with their own strength of will. With every step, they grew more resolute, determined not to be broken by the mental and emotional turmoil around them. Through the chaos, their bond stood as an unshakable pillar of support. When one faltered, the other was there to steady them, offering encouragement and reminding them of their shared purpose. The trials tested their limits, but the unwavering trust between them proved to be a source of immense power. Together, they faced the tormenting illusions, their connection growing stronger as they moved closer to overcoming the chamber's challenge. The next chamber presented a brutal test of endurance and strength. Adrian and Serena were confronted with a series of increasingly difficult physical challenges, each one more demanding than the last. They climbed jagged cliffs, swam through frigid waters, and crossed unstable bridges that seemed on the verge of collapsing beneath their weight. Every obstacle forced them to push their bodies beyond what they thought was possible, testing their stamina and resilience. Despite the relentless difficulty, Adrian and Serena refused to relent. With every obstacle they overcame, their determination only grew stronger. They relied on each other's strength, offering encouragement and support when one began to falter. The trial pushed them to their physical limits, but they remained focused, driven by the knowledge that the trials ahead would only grow more intense. Their bond of trust and teamwork became the key to overcoming the challenges set before them. As they tackled each challenge, Adrian's tactical mind and Serena's magical abilities were put to the test in ways they had never experienced before. Adrian carefully analyzed every obstacle, devising strategies to navigate through them, while Serena used her magic to enhance their efforts, creating shields, illuminating dark paths, and even manipulating the environment when necessary. Their collaboration was seamless, as their skills complemented each other perfectly. The trials were grueling, but they never wavered. With each obstacle they overcame, their bond and determination grew stronger. Their movements became more synchronized, as if they were a single force working in unison. The physical and mental strain was immense, but their unwavering teamwork and shared resolve saw them through each grueling test. They knew that their success was not just a matter of strength or skill, but of their unbreakable partnership. The final chamber was the most formidable they had encountered, its atmosphere thick with an oppressive energy. In the center stood an ancient altar, surrounded by a swirling vortex of dark energy that seemed to distort the very air around it. The artifact rested on the altar, gleaming with an otherworldly power, but it was clear that its retrieval would not come easily. It was the key to the ultimate test, a challenge that would push them to their limits. To reach the artifact, Adrian and Serena would have to face their greatest fears and confront the essence of their vulnerabilities. The dark energy around the altar seemed to magnify their deepest insecurities, pulling at their very souls. Every step forward felt like a battle not only against the vortex but also against the fear that threatened to overwhelm them. Yet, they knew they had no choice but to face it, their resolve steeled by everything they had already overcome. Adrian and Serena approached the altar, their hearts pounding in their chests as they drew closer to the swirling vortex of dark energy. The air was heavy, pressing down on them with a suffocating intensity, and the very ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble. The vortex pulsed with a malevolent force, as if aware of their presence, its dark tendrils curling and shifting like a living thing. Every step they took toward the altar felt like an unspoken challenge, each moment heavier than the last. Above the altar, the crystalline orb hovered, its glow flickering ominously in the midst of the chaotic energy surrounding it. The artifact's radiance seemed to beckon them, yet it was laced with a dangerous allure, as though it held a power beyond their comprehension. Adrian and Serena knew they had no choice but to reach it, but the weight of what they were about to face pressed on them with relentless force, their resolve tested to its breaking point. As they reached for the artifact, a powerful whirlwind of their deepest fears and regrets enveloped them. The chamber seemed to come alive with their darkest thoughts, each fear manifesting as a vivid, terrifying vision. Adrian was confronted with the ghosts of past failures, moments of weakness that had haunted him for years. Serena faced her own painful memories, the times she had sacrificed too much, losing pieces of herself in the process. The swirling darkness intensified, threatening to consume them as the pressure mounted on both their hearts and minds. The struggle became both physical and emotional, testing their very souls. Every step forward felt like wading through an ocean of doubt, as if the weight of their pasts would drag them under. But through sheer will, Adrian and Serena clung to each other, their bond a steady anchor in the storm. They had faced countless trials together before, but this one demanded a depth of courage they had never before tapped into. Slowly, they began to push back against the darkness, confronting their fears and embracing the strength they had cultivated through their shared journey. Adrian and Serena fought through the darkness with unyielding determination, their resolve a beacon against the consuming void. The weight of their fears pressed in on them, but they drew strength from one another, each of their shared experiences serving as a reminder of their endurance and unity. Every memory of their triumphs, every moment they had fought side by side, fueled their resistance. The bond between them, forged through countless trials, proved to be their greatest asset in the face of overwhelming darkness. With a final surge of effort, they reached out together and grasped the artifact. The crystalline orb pulsed with a radiant light, dispelling the dark energy that had surrounded them. The oppressive force began to unravel, and the chamber's air cleared, leaving only a profound silence in its wake. Their victory was not just over the trials they had faced, but over the inner darkness that had threatened to consume them. Adrian and Serena stood victorious, their bond stronger than ever, having conquered their greatest challenge yet. The chamber fell silent as the last remnants of darkness receded, leaving behind a profound sense of peace. The glow of the artifact bathed the room in a soft, ethereal light, signaling their success. They had endured and triumphed over the trials, proving not only their physical strength but also their unwavering commitment to each other and their mission. The oppressive atmosphere that had once gripped the chamber lifted, replaced by a calm that seemed to echo the victory they had earned. As the light from the artifact continued to shine, Adrian and Serena stood together, their breaths steadying after the intense ordeal. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged stronger, their abilities and resolve pushed to the limit. With the trials behind them, they now had the key to whatever lay ahead, their bond having proven to be the greatest weapon in their arsenal. Exhausted but victorious, Adrian and Serena stepped out of the chamber, the artifact safely in their possession. As they emerged, the oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the island seemed to lift, as though the very air had been cleansed by their triumph. The tension that had gripped the island throughout their trials faded, replaced by a subtle but palpable shift in the environment. It was as if the island itself acknowledged their success, granting them a moment of peace after the harrowing challenges they had endured. The weight that had once pressed down on them, both physically and emotionally, now seemed to vanish into the air, leaving behind a sense of accomplishment. Despite their exhaustion, Adrian and Serena stood tall, their bond stronger than ever. The trials had tested their limits, but they had emerged victorious, the artifact now a symbol of their perseverance and unity. With the island's trials behind them, they were ready to move forward, prepared for whatever came next on their journey. "We did it," Serena said, her voice filled with relief as she looked at Adrian, a soft smile playing on her lips. The weight of the trials they had faced together seemed to melt away in that moment, replaced by a deep sense of accomplishment. The intensity of the tests, both physical and emotional, had pushed them to their limits, but they had persevered, emerging on the other side stronger than they had ever been before. Adrian nodded, his gaze steady and full of pride as he met her eyes. "We've proven that nothing can break us," he said, his voice unwavering. Their bond had been tested in ways they could never have imagined, yet it had held firm, a testament to the strength they found in each other. With the artifact in their possession and the trials behind them, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they were ready to face them together. Adrian nodded, his expression a mix of exhaustion and pride, the weight of the trials still heavy on his shoulders. "This trial has shown us just how much we've grown," he said, his voice carrying the depth of the journey they had just completed. The challenges they had faced had not only tested their skills but had revealed the strength within them both, strength that had been forged in the heat of their shared experiences and the bond they had built over time. "We faced our fears and emerged victorious," Adrian continued, his eyes meeting Serena's with an unspoken understanding. The trials had been brutal, pushing them to their limits, but through it all, they had remained unwavering in their commitment to each other and their mission. Their victory was not just a triumph over the tests they had endured, but a reflection of how far they had come together, ready to face whatever the future held. As they made their way back to the Elysium, the storm that had once raged around them had cleared, leaving behind a calm and serene ocean. The water, once turbulent and threatening, now reflected the peaceful sky above, offering a moment of respite after the trials they had faced. The island, with its dark and treacherous challenges, slowly faded behind them as they sailed toward the horizon, the journey ahead still uncertain but filled with new purpose. The ultimate test they had faced had been a crucible, pushing them to their limits and forcing them to confront their deepest fears. Yet, in overcoming it, they had not only proven their strength and resolve, but had also solidified their bond, reinforcing the unwavering trust and commitment they had for one another. Their shared experience had deepened their connection, and with each passing wave, they knew their journey was far from over. With the artifact in hand and their spirits renewed, Adrian and Serena stood on the deck of the Elysium, ready for whatever lay ahead. The trials had tested them in ways they had never imagined, pushing them to their limits both physically and emotionally. Yet, as the winds shifted and the ocean stretched out before them, they felt a sense of accomplishment and strength, their bond stronger than ever. They faced the future with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, knowing that their journey was far from over. Each new challenge would bring its own trials, but with the lessons they had learned and the unbreakable connection they shared, they were more than prepared to embrace whatever came next. The horizon ahead was filled with endless possibilities, and they were ready to pursue them together.